Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Empowered Hormones podcast. I'm Sheridan Decker and I'm so excited to be here today for episode 200. We did it. It's funny because the podcast actually started as a passion project so I was living in Albany still, and it was in the storage room because I used to sit in there because it was a small enclosed room and there was no echo in it, whereas the rest of the house had really high ceilings and wooden floors and everything just sounded echoey. So I started there and then I was house sitting and I was doing it in my friend's walk-in wardrobe because the acoustics were amazing because the sound didn't bounce around at all. Anyway, it started very low-key grassroots, but I still to this day think my first 100 episodes are probably my best ones just because they're so unfiltered and raw, whereas like now I'm really thinking about what do people want to get out of this and how can I help them most and what do people want to listen to around gut health, and like I really overthink it, whereas back then I was like, I'm just going to say what I need to say and people can listen. And then the podcast did really well actually. So it's been a journey over the 200 episodes. I would say the podcast must be, I think it must be about 4 years old. I'd have to double check actually because I was doing one a week and that would take us to close to 4 years, which is pretty exciting and a lot of episodes and a lot of talking time. There's quite a lot of solo episodes in there. And then I've just had some epic guests. I went through this phase in the middle there, you'll see, where I was just like, yes, I want to talk to that person, that person, that person. And it was so great because I got so much awesome content in there for you guys. So go back through the old podcast episodes of some of the guests I've had. They're really great if you want to learn about different topics. But to be honest, most people are coming here because they want to learn about gut health and then how to support their hormones through their gut health. And that's where the title Empowered Hormones came from, because I was going through my own gut journey of IBS and why it's a bullshit diagnosis, which is basically what we're going to unpack today. But I really also needed support with my hormones. And my biggest frustration was everyone was looking at everything in isolation. And what I really needed was someone to look at the whole picture. And that's where the title Empowered Hormones came from, because I was like, well, if I can fix my gut, if I can get rid of my bloating, my gas, I can have regular bowel movements, I can digest my food better, surely that means all my hormone-related symptoms, which was no periods for 7 years, the acne, the psoriasis, the fatigue, which obviously they link back to gut as well, but that is all going to get better if I heal my gut. And now when I chat to women before they start working with me, and I always say the same thing. I'm like, hey, it's a pyramid. Like at the bottom of this triangle, this pyramid is your gut health. To get good sex drive, hair, skin, nails, you need to fix your gut first. And that's where Empowered Hormones from. We can empower our hormones by fixing our gut health. And that was really important to me, like making sure that women understood that connection. And that is why I do a couple things. One, I only work with women inside my 6-month program simply because to address all the things going on with women and to use a really clear holistic approach that looks at hormones, gut, thyroid, nervous system, you actually need that amount of time. It also means you need to run a couple things with testing. So blood work, so we do your functional blood work, thyroid blood work, your gut markers, like whether that's microbiome stool testing, SIBO breath testing, H. pylori breath testing, whatever it is around the gut, and then really specifically diving into the hormone stuff. So that would be saliva testing or urine testing, which are really, really important for understanding hormonal patterns and also adrenal health as well. So that's really key to me, is going, hey, it's got to be 6 months. But also, secondly, we need to look at the body as a whole, because I got so sick of going from practitioner to practitioner and thing to thing to thing, and no one was diving in and actually going, okay, Sheridan, let's connect all the dots and work out what's going on here. And that's why I have gut health specialists and a hormone specialist helping and supporting me inside the program, because I don't want to miss a single thing with my clients. So that's how the podcast started. That's how we got to 200 episodes. And today I really want to unpack why IBS is a BS diagnosis and what's actually going on, because this is still the most common question /thing/topic I talk about, and that comes across when women chat to me and go, hey, Sheridan, my GP said I had IBS. I've tried everything. I don't know what else to do. This is reoccurring. There's so many other things linked into that, like underpinning that, which is I got constipation, I got gas, I got bloating, I got loose stools, I got food allergies, I got hormone concerns, I got heavy periods. But it all comes back to this one thing of like women thinking they have IBS. And if you've ever been handed an IBS diagnosis, you'll actually understand that it's really frustrating because it doesn't give you anything. It's like, let me unpack this properly. So it stands for irritable bowel syndrome. And basically that means your GP or your doctor has looked at your symptoms, has done a couple tests, maybe sent you for a colonoscopy. Everything's come back normal, and they're just telling you the bowel's irritable. So it's not a diagnosis. It's actually more of a statement. It's saying we couldn't find a disease. You don't have IBD. And this is the big clarification difference. If you've got IBD, which is a diagnosable disease like Crohn's disease, it actually gives you validation, because you're like, okay, there's actually something going on in there. Whereas with IBS, it's really unvalidating, because it's like, well, okay, there's nothing actually going on with me. I've just got something that can't be fixed, that I probably need to eat more fibre and drink more water, but I'm already healthy and I'm already doing everything right. So is it my stress, or is it like you just feel so lost? I know I did, because I was like, well, I've done a sports science degree. I am healthy. I'm going to the gym every day. I'm doing CrossFit. Like, I've done my Masters of Nutrition. I'm not just sitting on the couch eating crap. So why am I so bloated and so uncomfortable? And I lived like that for years, like 10 years. And that's really where this podcast started, was me going, I want to see change. I want to make change. This is not right. This is not normal. Women shouldn't be living like this, because I did it for so long, and it took me going down a completely different path. So the functional medicine, the root cause testing, and actually investigating what is going on with my gut to work out, why I was the most healthiest unhealthy person, and why I didn't have periods, and I had so much fatigue, and I felt so terrible all the time. So I want to talk about what's actually going on, because in my sort of clinical experience, when an active, healthy female comes to me with IBS, so the main symptoms are the bloating, gas, constipation, diarrhea, pain, like they're kind of the top tier ones I see. It usually comes back down to four main things: low stomach acid, so poor digestive juices and low stomach acid, which then leads into all your bacterial overgrowths and imbalances. And then we also see that small intestine bacterial stuff, and then we also see large intestine bacterial stuff like the parasites, and then the low good gut flora. So let's just briefly jump into those, just so that if you're new here and you're like, I don't actually know anything about any of them, then it's going to be a little bit more helpful, rather than me just ranting, telling you IBS isn't real and they're not actually telling you what is real. So number one, low stomach acid, poor digestive juices. Like, here's the thing about digestion. It actually starts before it hits your stomach. So your stomach acid is where a lot of the food is broken down. And if this isn't working properly, you're going to end up with these bacterial imbalances, right? So let me rephrase that. Your stomach is supposed to be really acidic. So we say a pH of around 1.5 to 3.5. So that's actually the same as battery acid. So think very acidic. That acid breaks down your food, that activates your digestive enzyme, particularly one called pepsin, which you may have supplemented with before. And this kills off bacteria and pathogens before they get near your small intestine, right? So if you have a low stomach acid, which a lot of women do, if you get that heavy bloated feeling, that burping, that discomfort, not like that partially digested food, that moves into your small intestine, and then that becomes a food source for bacteria that shouldn't be there. So it's really common in stress, like chronic stress suppresses stomach acid production. Women on birth control pill tend to have low stomach acid or have used like protein pump inhibitors as well, will lower stomach acid. Or if you've had H. pylori, the bacterial infection, that can suppress it as well. So it's really, really important to look into this and go, okay, potentially stomach acid's low. Is my digestive capacity low? Because then that is going to be a part of the root cause that leads into this SIBO, so small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and also parasites in the large intestine as well. So with SIBO, if this stomach acid is low, your small intestine is not supposed to have a lot of bacteria in it. So bacteria mainly live in your large intestine, but that bacteria, one, it can come in if the stomach acid wasn't there to stop them, or if you have poor migrating motor complex, which I've actually just talked about in the recent episodes, where those natural cleaning waves are not moving through. And I've talked about why you might have issues with your migrating motor complex, but you end up with SIBO, and that's generally where you get those symptoms that are completely the same as quote unquote IBS. So the bloating, especially after eating, especially gets worse over the day, the constipation, the diarrhea. Some people unfortunately have both, which just makes it super confusing because they're like, did this food trigger my constipation? Did it trigger loose stools? How do I know anymore? And that's when we tend to look into FODMAP. So you're looking at that fermentation in the diet and going, hey, if I reduce that, is that going to help my symptom picture? Because classically we have two types. We have the hydrogen and we have the methane. And like I said, I have just unpacked these in previous episodes. So I only want to chat about them briefly here. But it is diagnosable. And this is, I actually want to say that 70 to 80% of the cases I see, because I work with health conscious active women, is generally a SIBO picture at play causing a lot of their symptoms. And then it's the why, like, is it because they've got low stomach acid? Is it because they're highly stressed? Is it because, you know, they've got a damaged migrating motor complex? Is it because they've been under eating or eating the wrong foods? Or is it because there's 2 or 3 things going on in their large intestine? And that's when we see things like parasites, which can sort of disrupt that whole immune function as well and that bacterial balance. So for me, it was, and I just spoke about this about my barley journey, but it was picking up the parasites in Indo, plus the way that impacted my immune system, plus the glandular fever, the Epstein-Barr virus, and then that contributed towards SIBO, plus I had low stomach acid from stress. So it varies a lot from female to female as to what your actual root cause is, but it could be a combination of these things, and then those things, which is parasites, SIBO, poor digestion, and chronic stress, they can all impact the bacterial diversity in your large intestine. So I see a lot of microbiome stool results that have low diversity. So the good bacteria are depleted, right? This is a lot of work to regrow. It's generally actually easier to kill stuff off than it is to grow it back. Just because you need specific strains, like specific prebiotics and specific probiotics, but a lot of you guys won't be able to take or handle those pre or probiotics because of all the other stuff going on. So you're trying to do the right thing. You're like, okay, I've got this IBS diagnosis. I'm going to take probiotics. I'm going to eat really healthy. And then it all just backfires on you. It's just a step-by-step process. And I think that's what confuses a lot of women is when you walk out that GP office with the IBS diagnosis, you do feel really overwhelmed and frustrated and like, where to from here? Because if you don't have a clear plan and you don't know where to next, it does feel like you've tried everything and you're not going anywhere. So let me share a story. This is what it looks like in real life. I met with a client the other day. She'd been to her GP for bloating, constipation, stomach pain. She'd had the constipation for 10 years. And this is not uncommon. Most women have had it for 10 to 20 years. They're lucky if they've had it for 5, but usually it's a good whack of time. In that time frame, this female, no one had been able to help her, right? Like she's seen naturopaths, nutritionists, dietitians, GPs. Things had worked short term, but nothing long term. Like laxatives work and then they stop, and then eating more fibre sometimes seems to help, and other times it makes her more bloated and more constipated. When I said to her, hey, have you heard of microbiome testing, like stool testing? She's like, oh yeah, my GP one. And I was like, no, this is different. And this is what happens is we think we've done the right things because we've done the GP testing, but it's actually not enough. It's like the GP's blood work isn't enough. It doesn't cover everything. The GP's microbiome testing isn't enough. It doesn't cover everything, right? So then we're left with going, okay, everything's normal. Is this just how it is? Is it genetics, or is there something else going on here? And when I ran testing with her, what came back was the blastocystis hominis, the methane dominant SIBO, the really low levels of beneficial bacteria, and things like HCl were really helping her symptoms, which made me go, okay, there is a stomach acid issue here as well. So there are things you can do to support it, but you need to understand what your root causes are. In her case, a low fermentation diet made a really big difference. Adding in the digestive support made a really big difference. Treating the bacteria made a really big difference. You see bowels start to move within 7 to 10 days, and you see that bloating come down within 7 to 14 days, simply because it's a targeted approach. I'm not guessing. I'm not throwing random things around, and I know what works in these cases. The second thing that really gets women is then the bloating comes down, the puffiness comes down, and the weight drops off. So it's just a thing of women being like, why did no one tell me this? I had this gas for years. I had this constipation for years. I had these IBS for years, and no one told me there was, answers and solutions for it. And I think that's a really frustrating place to be in. So if that sounds like you, while you're getting proper testing done, there's a couple things you can actually start doing right now to support this IBS diagnosis and to get you feeling good. One, support your stomach acid. So a little bit of apple cider vinegar or lemon juice in a bit of water 5 to 10 minutes before a meal can really, really help. And even digestive bitters. So something like a Berigast, they will help you support the digestive juices and break down your food properly. It's not a long-term fix, but it's going to help your stomach actually do what it needs to do, which is break down food. Slowing down and actually chewing your food. I know you're like, it sounds so simple, but how many of you actually sit down and eat your food intentionally? Not scrolling, not at your desk, not in fight or flight, not while you're driving, not while you're chasing kids around the house, because your body actually needs to prioritize digestion. So you need it to produce the digestive juices that it was meant to do so that you can break down that food properly. Sit, breathe, chew. It generally does make a difference. Support your motility, especially if you're constipated. This is a massive one. So if you're a grazer, like someone who snacks a lot between meals, actually eating every 3 to 4 hours is going to be really, really helpful. And then making sure you're having some magnesium at night to draw that water into the bowels and get things moving. Also, walking after eating, like 5 to 10 minutes after, just moving around helps as well. And then making sure you are just checking that fiber. So I would download Crotometer and just have a squeeze and go, oh yeah, I feel really good at 15 to 20 grams, or I feel terrible, or I feel better at 30 to 35. And that gets me pooing every day. The more data you have around your macros, your food, what you've been eating, what types of fiber is really, really helpful, because that kind of feeds into, okay, what fiber do I need for my microbiome right now? Because you're either in one of two camps. Like, one is you've got SIBO, so therefore it needs to be low fermentation while you treat that picture. Or, hey, I don't have that, but I've got low good gut flora and I really need to push diversity in my diet, because that's going to be really helpful in feeding out that bifidobacterium and that lactobacillus. Saying you could add in fermented foods and stuff as well to grow those bacteria, but I wouldn't be pushing that if you haven't ruled out the other stuff. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. I'm really passionate about the IBS stuff, only because that was my journey for so long, and I had every test done, and I had the MRIs and the biopsies and the endoscopies and the colonoscopies and the blood testing, and no one could work out what was going on. And I had so much stomach pain and so much fatigue, and it was really uncomfortable. Like, it really impacted my confidence, my exercise, my travel, my ability to do things, my bounce back from exercise. Like, I was still pushing myself through everything because that's the kind of person I am. But the burping, the bloating, the constipation, the fear of traveling, the not wanting to date, the no sex drive at all, like the exhaustion was unreal. But also it leads into eating disorders because I couldn't tolerate so many foods and I felt terrible when I ate. So I would rather just not eat so I didn't look bloated. And, that leads into its own hormonal cascade, and hence obviously all the hormonal adrenal support I had to do as well. So if this is you and you're like, man, Sheridan, that is me. Like, I've been on this IBS journey and no one has been able to help me. And I have tried some of the things you've suggested above, but I'm still stuck here. I really need to do some testing. Then just use the link in the show notes and book a gut health planning session with me. It's 30 minutes. It's free. It's probably, to be honest, the conversation your GP didn't have with you. It's going to be me going, okay, what have you tried? What haven't you tried? What testing have you done? What testing haven't you done? What herbs have you taken? What supplements have you taken? And what's been missed? Because every time I have a call with a female, something has been missed at some point. It's either the practitioner didn't run the right testing, or the GP didn't look at the right blood markers, or, your naturopath didn't look at the specific dietary changes you needed to make alongside your herbs. It's really important to cover every aspect, and I wish I could tell you there was a quick fix for IBS, but there really isn't. There just isn't. It's not a real diagnosis. There's not a quick fix, and you need to do the work so that you can get a healthy gut back, have more energy, feel good in your body, confident, recover from exercise well, good bowel movements, like all that stuff needs a targeted approach. Anyway, 200 episodes. Thank you for being here. Reach out, DM me on Instagram. I love to hear from you guys. I hope this episode was helpful. Share it with your friends who've got IBS, and then think about, hey, what's my next step from here? Because, girl, you don't need to be living like that. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Empowered Hormone Podcast. If you know a female who needs some empowerment, please forward, repost, tag or share, and let's get women talking.